Namaste and welcome to Daily News Simplified, the what, why, and how of newspaper reading. Today, we would be analyzing the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper of 19th February 2018. Now, let us begin. Now, we have taken the lead editorial from page 8. Now, the focus of this article is that according to the author, India should prioritize the causes of concern in India's immediate neighborhood, such as the crisis in Maldives or the change in government in Nepal, among others. Moreover, according to the author, India then subsequently should focus on causes of concern which are global in nature, such as the Israel Palestine conflict, China's involvement in South China Sea, among others. Now, the question is, why is the author recommending this? Now, according to the author, India needs to showcase a leadership role in ensuring stability first in its neighborhood, and it is only after establishing a leadership role in our neighborhood that India can claim global leadership roles. Now, hopefully, up till here, you have understood the focus of this article that, according to the author, India should prioritize the causes of concern which are in its immediate neighborhood, such as the conflict in Maldives or the change in government in Nepal, among others. And it is only after that that India should subsequently prioritize the issues of concern that are of global nature, such as of Israel-Palestine conflict, China's role in South China Sea, among others. And the reason given by the author as to why this should be is that India needs to first showcase a leadership role in ensuring stability in its own neighborhood before it can claim any global leadership roles. Now, after this, the author further highlights the causes of concern in India's neighborhood. Now, let us understand what are the causes of concern in India's immediate neighborhood. Now, the first country that the author talks about is about Nepal and the causes of concerns for India in this country. Now, the first cause of concern is on how India should deal with the new government that has been formed in Nepal. Now, the new government in Nepal comprises of an alliance between the left-leaning partners led by KP Oli. And the cause of concern for India is that the new alliance that has formed the government in Nepal is sympathetic towards China. And the new government in Nepal might try to balance India by growing closer with China. Now, the second cause of concern that the author highlights is in Bangladesh. Now, as you might know, the former Prime Minister and the biggest opposition leader, Khalida Zia, has been arrested in Bangladesh, and this has led to a political crisis. And therefore, according to the author, India needs to contemplate the prospect of prolonged unrest and possible violence that might occur in Bangladesh, and especially in the upcoming elections later this year or in early of 2019 that would occur in Bangladesh. The third country that the author specifies is Maldives. Now, as you might know, there is an ongoing constitutional crisis in Maldives, in which the major opposition leaders of Maldives are either in jail or in exile, while there has been a major clampdown on the judiciary itself. Now, according to the author, there has been an increased anti-India tendencies by the current president Yamin. Apart from this, there has been an increased role of China in Maldives, such as the recent free trade agreement that has been signed between China and Maldives, the political support of China that has been given to the current president Yamin, among others. And therefore, the ongoing constitutional crisis in Maldives and the increased role of China becomes a cause of concern for India in Maldives. Now, the fourth country that the author talks about is of Pakistan. Now, according to the author, there has been a lack of a consistent policy that India should have towards Pakistan. And moreover, according to the author, there has been an inability to control cross-border firing and terrorism that are emanating from Pakistan. Now, the fifth and the last country that the author talks about is of Afghanistan. Now, according to the author, India should focus on ensuring stability of the government of Afghanistan. And moreover, according to the author, India should focus on combating Pakistan's deep state that exists in Afghanistan, such as the ISI. Now, hopefully, up till here, you have understood the causes of concern that the author highlights in India's neighborhood. You understand that in Nepal, the cause of concern is on how India should deal with the new government, which is more sympathetic towards China. Subsequently, in Bangladesh, the political crisis that has occurred due to the arrest of Khalida Zia should be of focus for India. While in Maldives, the constitutional crisis and the ongoing anti-India tendencies by President Yamin and the increased role of China should be of concern for India. While in Pakistan, the lack of a policy by India on how to handle Pakistan and the inability to control cross-border firing and terrorism should be of concern for India. While lastly, in Afghanistan, India should ensure the stability of the Afghan government and moreover combat Pakistan's deep state such as ISI to ensure that terrorist elements do not find harbour in Afghanistan and moreover for Afghanistan not to be used as a staging ground against India. So if a question is asked in your UPSC mains examination as to what are the causes of concern in India's neighbourhood, you would be able to give a concise overview by understanding this article. Now if you look at the UPSC syllabus, India in this neighborhood forms a part of your GS paper 2 under the International Relations section. And now we move on to our next article. Now we have taken this article from the editorial page on page 8. Now what this article talks about is about the licentiate medical practitioners. So what we'll do is first understand as to what are LMP, why are such practitioners required, and how the licentiate medical practitioners would be implemented. Now let us first understand as to what are licentiate medical practitioners. Now the licentiate medical practitioners would be trained medical professionals which will be trained through a short-term course in modern medicine. And according to the author, this short-term course would be of around 3 to 3.5 years. Now these medical practitioners would be trained primarily for primary health care. Now according to the author, such medical professionals existed in the 1940s but were abolished by the recommendations of the Bhora Committee of 1946. Now the question is, why was it abolished? Now according to the Bhora Committee, such medical practitioners were not required and the committee viewed that India would produce enough MBBS doctors. Now such medical practitioners has recently been proposed by the Union Health Ministry. Now hopefully up till here you have understood as to what are licentiate medical practitioners, that LMPs are trained medical professionals which have gone through a short-term course in modern medicine and their training has been specified primarily for primary healthcare. You also further understand that it was practiced in the 1940s but was abolished by the recommendations of the Bhora Committee. And moreover, the Union Health Ministry has recently again reproposed this form of medical practitioners. Now the question is as to why is the author recommending for India to have licentiate medical practitioners. Now according to the author, it will solve the shortage of doctors in rural areas. Now the last question is as to how this scheme would be implemented. Now the author has given 5 points. The first point given by the author is to design a medical curriculum for primary healthcare needs. Now this is because, according to the author, the present MBBS curriculum includes subjects such as forensic medicine that has little relevance to primary healthcare needs, and therefore a medical curriculum that is specified for primary healthcare only should be formed. The second point given by the author is that preference should be given to locals for training to become licentiate medical practitioners. Now this is because it would ensure that such locals would then practice within their local rural areas. Now the third point given by the author is that provision should be made that the medical curriculum and the training is given in vernacular languages. Now the fourth point given by the author is that licentiate medical practitioners should work under a supervisory MBBS doctor, and this is because LMPs should not be seen as replacing MBBS doctors and are only to aid MBBS doctors in ensuring proper primary health care and thereby solving the shortage of doctors in rural areas. Now the fifth and the last point of the author is that licentiate medical practitioners should focus on both administration work and medical work. Now this would allow the administrative work of MBBS doctors to be delegated to licentiate medical practitioners and would also ensure that separate administration is not required in rural areas. Now hopefully up till here you have understood as to why licentiate medical practitioners are required, and you also further understand on how LMPs should be implemented as according to the author. So hopefully you have understood the what, why and how of this article. Now if we take a look at the UPSC syllabus, licentiate medical practitioners would form a part of your GS paper 2 in the subsection Issues relating to development and management of social sector services relating to health. Now we move on to our next article. Now we have taken this article from page 6. Now the reason why this article is in the news because the Assam government has launched a new program wherein it has given modern arms and equipments for the protection and rescue of tigers, rhinos and other wildlife, and these weapons have been given to guards to fight against poaching. Now what is necessary to understand from this article is about the 10 wildlife fast track courts. Now under the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, the hunting, poaching of scheduled wild animals for the purpose of trade or commerce or for trophy hunting is strictly prohibited. by the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 and is considered a criminal offence. And therefore, the Guwahati High Court has designated senior judges to preside over fast track courts, and these fast track courts would be in 10 districts of Assam. Now, these fast track courts have been formed to ensure speedy justice in form of a prompt trial of poachers and thereby improving the conviction rate by speedy disposal of cases. Now, fully up till here, you've understood that for the first time in the country, the Guwahati High Court has designated senior judges to preside over fast track courts in 10 different districts of Assam so as to ensure a prompt trial of poachers which have been convicted under the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. Now, with this, we move on to our next article. Now, we have taken this article from page 11. Now, what this article talks about is the Indo-US nuclear deal, wherein India has been in discussion with the private company Westinghouse since 2005 to build 6 nuclear reactors. However, there were concerns about India's nuclear liability bill of 2010, and moreover, the company had also declared bankruptcy, and because of this, the process to form nuclear reactors had been halted. Now, the Indo-US nuclear deal, the Nuclear Liability Bill of 2010, has been covered in a much earlier video in the DNS of 3rd February 2018. Now, this video referred to an article by Suhasini Heather as to why the Indo-US nuclear deal is obsolete, and you can refer to that video to further understand about the Indo-US nuclear deal, what is the problem with the Nuclear Liability Bill of 2010, and why US nuclear companies are hesitant in investing in India. And from this, we move on to our next article. Now, the main crux of this article, as said by Shiv Shankar Menon, is that India-China relations should not be considered as a zero-sum game. Now, a zero-sum game simply means that there is gain for one player and loss for the other. And according to Shiv Shankar Menon, India-China relations should not be seen as a zero-sum game, where any gain for China is seen as a loss for India, or any gain for India is seen as a loss for China. Now, he further states that there should be a re-establishment of the Modus Vivendi that was formed by Rajiv Gandhi after his visit to China in 1988. Now, as part of this Modus Vivendi, what was informally decided was to keep peace at India-China border and not to let the border issues stop India-China cooperation, and most importantly, to discuss all differences. Now, with this regard, the article gives an example of the Doklam crisis, wherein both countries did not escalate tension and ensured negative peace is still kept at the India-China border. And what is necessary after the Doklam crisis is not to let the India-China border issues stop cooperation between both countries and to further continue discussions on all differences that India-China might have. Now, a question was asked in your UPSC mains examination of the 2008 examination, which had asked for India and China strategy to boost ties, and in which you could refer to the modus vivendi of Rajiv Gandhi as stated by Shiv Shankar Menon to answer this question. Now, with this, we move on to our next article. Now, we have taken this article from page 13. Now, the key point of discussion that comes out from this article is that the top priority for the economy is first to resolve the issues of the banking sector, and the second is the revival of investments, especially private investment. Now, as you might know, the monetary policy affects the interest rate in the economy. Now, the monetary policy affects the interest rate through the changes in money supply. And therefore, because of this, the prevailing rate of interest determines the rate of investment in the economy. And therefore, low interest rates is assumed to lead to an increase in investments. But according to the article, the monetary policy cannot alone solve the problem of low investment. And the main reason for this is due to the incomplete transmission of monetary policy. Now, if the RBI reduces the interest rate for banks through its various instruments such as cash reserve ratio, bank rate, repo rate, among others, but the banks do not pass this decrease in rate for the consumers, and this is what is called the incomplete transmission of monetary policy. Now, the banks are unable to pass the reduction in interest rate to the consumer because banks already have a poor balance sheet. So, therefore, according to this article, the policymakers should interact with industrialists to boost investment with a higher focus on individual sectors. And the second is that the government and the RBI should ensure that banks boost their lending. And this is because 70% of banks in India are public sector banks which are controlled by the government and the RBI. and therefore they should focus on ensuring that the public sector bank boosts their lending to the private sector and thereby ensuring a revival of private investment. Now, hopefully, up till here, you've understood that according to this article, the top priority for the economy is to resolve the issues of the banking sector and for the revival of investment. And moreover, you also further understand on what are the two measures that the article gives for improving or reviving investment. And you also further understand on why monetary policy alone cannot increase investment. Now, revival of investment is an important topic from your UPSC mains perspective. And you should understand the pros and cons of various measures such as monetary policy, lending by banks, among others, in reviving investment in the Indian economy. Now, with this, we come to an end in the analysis of today's paper. Now, we move on to the question for today.